I'm here because my daughter Shay Alyce Snyder passed away January 17th of 2024, forever 17. I don't get to see her happy for the rest of my life. She was a firecracker, goofy, funny, just nonstop going, just questions. If you told her no, it's always why, It was never just a, 'cause I told you so, She could sing full-on songs that, I'd be singing in the car when she was like 3. She could sing Leona Lewis, Keep Bleeding, word for word, and just a butterfly. She could play guitar. She started off with ukulele in the 4th grade because instead of doing like the little, the recorder that everybody did hot cross buns and annoyed their parents with, they were great and they did something different. They gave all the kids ukuleles to learn how to play, and I'm telling you, she could pick up any guitar, any instrument after that and just play. She had a set of drums for a time period. She had a keyboard, several guitars. I still have a couple of her guitars at home. So, of course, I'm going to keep those. But, yeah, she's got songs on BandLab that she, within the last couple years, had created. She did covers, but she also had some of her own songs. So, and they're beautiful.
Down in the forest, we'll sing a chorus, one that everybody knows. Hands held higher, we'll be on fire, singing songs that nobody wrote.
She was good up until about 6th grade. Sometimes middle school hits and, you want to be that rebellious kid. And, she kind of started having those rebellious tendencies in 6th grade when she was 11. And by the time she was 12, it got to the point where, because I was a single mom of 2, she has a brother that's older, Trenton. Her dad was doing really good at that point in time, but he lives in Ohio. And we just kind of, after daily things that just seemed to be getting worse and worse, he and I just kind of came to an agreement and was like, let's try out sending her to you. In my head, I was like, if they can create a bond, that they haven't had for this long, that's a plus. If he can get her and thump her in the head and get her behavior back on track, that's a plus, So it was a very scary decision, but we didn't think we had a choice at that point. And it just kind of got worse from there. So it didn't go the way that I had hoped, that anybody really hoped. We thought that, she'd turn around, but just kind of, got in trouble at school way more than I think she probably would have here in Wichita. I don't know, I don't know if it was just because she was mad because she had to leave Wichita, but there was very good reasons to send her to her dad at that point is what we'd come to determine. So, but I ended up getting her back from her dad's. There was a lot of her getting in trouble in Ohio, and she was in a facility at that time frame. And I was able to get her out before she should have finished the program. It wasn't necessarily my idea, but it was, your kid's states away and she's begging to come home, and I'm just hoping that everything can turn around, that, she wants her mom. I want my kid. So I hoped that would be what was promised is, Mom, I will do better. And that was during COVID, so that was hard, having to come home and just kind of relearn how to be in Wichita, but yet, you're on a laptop and you don't want to do school. So then the next year after that, she went to Northwest High School, and that's when it just kind of all reared its ugly head. And I think that's when she started meeting up with some people that I didn't know did certain things. And she had ran away, I think, to go do said certain things. We were definitely butting heads because she was doing things that I knew were not appropriate. And I just wanted her to do what was right, go to school, not get in trouble, and not do crazy drugs, I had told her, I said, if you can go a whole week at school without getting in trouble and I don't have to leave work and come get you, I'm not getting a phone call of any sort, you can go to your girlfriend's. And you guys, they lived in an apartment complex, which I knew had an indoor pool. Yeah, sure. Okay, I'll trust you for that weekend. And come Friday, I think it was probably 9:30, I get a phone call. She's still in the bathroom farting around with the girls, telling the teacher she doesn't need to go to class or doing whatever they're doing, And I had to come pick her up. And so I said, no, you're not going anywhere. But turns out that she really wanted to go to the boyfriend that she was seeing at that point in time, which I didn't know him and, didn't know his mom. And I'm like, well, you're certainly not going over there. And so she ran to go be with him, but his mom was not going to have a girl on the run hanging out, so he introduced her to somebody that ended up being very, very into the whole drug scene and just not a good influence. And we didn't know where she was, and it probably took about 4 months of putting out posters, calling people, going on foot, trying to find her. And when we did find her, I thought that, from what I was told, basically it was like, well, she's in an in-between age, usually like if they're 16 and they run away and they find them, they just kind of bring them back. Or they don't really do anything. But with her, they would have just brought her back. So that's what I was kind of expecting, is she was going to come here. But it was, poor me, my mom's terrible, this, that, and the other. So they treated it as though they had to find out what was going on at home. It was like a manipulation tactic because she didn't want to come home. And I was the bad guy, because I wanted to make sure she was doing what she should be doing rather than what she wanted to be doing. And that began the 2-year nightmare of her being in state's custody and me having to go through all these hoops. When I was told that she would have stayed in a facility in Salina, they ended up bringing her back to Wichita and just letting her be with a foster family. Because I had, let them know about all the behavioral issues from me getting her from another facility. They were going to figure it out that way. And because of the boy that was harboring her with his family and doing drugs, I was hoping that they were going to get that figured out there, so she didn't have access to these people. They basically threw her right back into a home that was less strict than mine. And mind you, foster parents, in my head, I'm thinking, well, these people have to be ran a certain way, but come to find out, they're some of the biggest horror stories, and I'm not just talking about mine, but the foster system, the state system is a nightmare. We ended up finding out while she was at her first foster parent that she was doing fentanyl. And I just couldn't for the life of me understand why they weren't doing on their part what to do to take her to her outpatient treatment and all that. And come to find out, they were actually sending her back to the person that harbored her, that was doing drugs with her on a regular basis. I still had parental rights. I mean, I was going to all these court dates and everything, and it kept getting further out because they wanted to reintegrate. But she kept, doing all these things that she wasn't supposed to be doing at the foster place too, which the main concern was the whole fentanyl. But they finally came to grips with the fact that this kid that they kept taking her to was not good, was not safe. There was an incident one night where they had to end up calling me, and I'm like, this is how I find out that you guys are actually literally sending my daughter to the person that she's getting these things from and doing things with, but also harbored her for 4 months while she was on the run, and they never got in trouble for it. Clearly. I was floored. But she, after 6 months of not, doing what she was supposed to do at the first foster family's house, she got sent to another. And during that time frame, I found out, because she had another caseworker too, and I found out shortly after they were sending her to that same house on like Tuesdays and Thursdays when she didn't have school. And I'm like, are you guys not talking to each other? Like, I was very much involved this whole entire time. Like, I was making sure that these people were doing what they needed to do so that we could get this show on the road. And there was just promises that were made that, if she kept doing, certain behaviors, that she would go to a facility, because we got to get this under control, Not to say that I favor the facilities, but you guys are literally keeping my daughter in harm's way, and you're not on the same page. I don't understand this. Like, I know what's going on. You guys don't know what's going on until it blows up in your face, and you're like, okay, well, we found drugs on her. There's twice at school she was found to be doing drugs while she was at that school. And it wasn't until then, when we all had a meeting, I said, I don't know why you guys aren't sitting here saying she can't come back until she goes through a 30-day rehab inpatient. And we finally made that to where it was supposed to be. And that was in May of that year. But it wasn't until the mid-July that we finally got her to go to Olathe. And she came back, and within a week, she had relapsed. And all the while, on the weekends, when she was doing good at these, people's houses or whatever, the foster care houses, I would get her on the weekends. But I would notice certain behavior, and it led me to believe, even before she got caught at the school, that she was doing fentanyl. I didn't know anything about fentanyl until I found out that she had started doing that so young. And I can only attribute it to the fact that she learned how to do that with friends. I didn't know anything at all about the fact that until COVID hit, and I heard people saying, do not pick up dollar bills on the ground. There might be a substance in there. And then I started reading about it, and then I started finding out about how they're making fake pills. And when my daughter mentioned one day Perk 30s, I was like, there's no such thing as that. I was a pharmacy tech. I was like, what are you guys smoking? Like, what are you doing? And then I did a little bit more research, and I'm like, this is asinine. This is life and death. You know, not knowing if you're going to get that phone call every day, and she's in state's custody. You know, it's just, I got robbed so much time from her because she was with her dad, and I got the time robbed while she was in state's custody, and she got hooked on fentanyl while she was there, and they didn't take her to her appointments. If she said she didn't feel like going, they didn't take her. But yet she couldn't be with me when I would take her. I would have taken her. I would have said, get in the car or you're going to the police station, and they'll escort you, because this is life and death. And all these police officers and all these people out here don't realize the severity of this, and they don't have the resources for children that are out of control and want to do whatever they want to do. And it's not, oh, I'm going to go smoke pot around the corner. This is a whole new ball game. And I've had recently another mom message me and say, Kim, I think about your daughter every day, and my 16-year-old son is just wilding out, and I don't know what to do. She's like, I'm afraid he's going to die. And that hit me really hard that day. And I was like, you know, that needs to be in the forefront. Where's our help when we're screaming for our child to be taken care of? When they won't let us take care of them, we can't discipline them, because God forbid you spank somebody's butt and then it's, oh, you know. But with her, I got the phone call because she had ran away from her last foster place. And I mean, I was talking to her pretty much every day, but, you know, it was always a stolen phone or whatever. You know, it wasn't something super reliable, but she was still on the run, and she wanted to come home. She was sorry for what she did. Like, at first she was just a mad teenager. She was 15, but by the end of it, she was so sick of doing everything. But, you know, I was like, you have to stay clean, and you have to go through this sobriety. You want to come home, but yet I'm worried that I'm going to come home to you dead. I don't want to find your body on the floor, but I certainly don't want you to be on it out in the streets. And my son's dad, her dad, and I, a few days prior to getting the phone call, we're all on the same page. You don't give her money, because you know what that's for. She's got to come home, or she's got to go back to the foster system. Either way. Because one of the times she ran away, she did come to my house. The police showed up, they took her, and then they dropped her back off. So, I mean, it's a mess out there. But she ran away, and the house that she was staying at that night she went to a hotel and got her last fix. And her dad was the one who sent her money, her last $20. I was eating lunch at work. I had just talked to her the night before on the phone with my son's dad, and it was, no, you're not getting money. You're either coming here for a shower, you have to go, or, you know, either the police get called to my house if they know that you're there, because we've been through this before, which went nowhere, or, you know, go to your placement and deal with it. You know, you've ran from these people before. You know, like you know the routine. What are they gonna do? Nothing. You're just gonna age out of the system, but you're not getting money because we don't want to chance the fact that you're gonna do fentanyl. And of course, it's for food. It's for food. I'm not doing fentanyl. Okay, but you know, that's what it was. And then I'm done eating my food and I go back to my desk where my phone's at, and I have all these missed phone calls from my son's dad and her dad. And I'm like, fuck. And I answer the phone. And it's her dad saying very frantically that he killed our daughter. Because he gave her money the night before. And I fell to the floor screaming hysterically, which I'm sure, I can't imagine what my coworkers felt like. But I'll never forget it. I had some very choice words with the caseworkers and the people that were trying to save face from St. Francis Ministries within the next couple of days, because they tell me that we should have kept her in Salina at the facility in the first place. It's the second time you've told me that I was right. The first time was about the kid that you were sending her back to that harbored her and was doing stuff, fentanyl, on a regular basis. It was the second time I was right, and I just basically said, you guys fucking killed my kid. And after that was found out that I said that, they offered to pay a chunk of the funeral. She was almost 18. I mean, she had a little over, she had like 8 months, but she would have aged out of the system if she just would have stayed put. And I was so hoping for that day to come, because I wouldn't have cared what was going on. I would have hit it hard. You know, there's all these shoulda, woulda, couldas. But I don't get to see her happy for the rest of my life. I don't get to see her succeed the way that she could have potentially. You know, she struggled with self-esteem and the mental health was in the beginning the issue at hand, and that's where all these drugs come in to play, because it's easier to just do it and escape whatever it is that they're in so much agony about. I don't get to make up for lost time. I don't get to really let her know how much everybody fucking loves her, man. I won't ever get to see her babies. I won't ever get to hear her sing or play guitar ever again. I don't get to see any kind of milestones of her achievements that she should and deserved. I didn't ask for much. I just wanted her to graduate high school. You know? That's all. That's it. Just graduate high school. But even as a knucklehead, man, there was all this chaos every day, you know, me being at work and having to talk to caseworkers and find out what's going on. Like, what is it today? What is it today? What are you guys not doing, you know? What is it she's doing? Like, there's just so many, like, bits and pieces that would take hours if I would have written them down. I know everybody said you should have written it down, but I'm like, I've got it right here. But, you know, it's like, even with the clues from people that were with her were very short and sweet, and leads me to believe that, you know, they knew and they were probably partaking. But all the other things that I would find out since her passing, you know, I was able to take it to the police and get case numbers, and nothing really came of it. But on my birthday last year, street justice happened, and I don't have to actually continue that route of being disappointed in the justice system.
Street justice.
Street justice.
All right, it's pretty easy to figure out what that means.
Yeah.
But what happened?
Well, I was sitting at my desk and I read an article of somebody who was the one that was her dealer, and they were found by the police in a unalived state. And the way that the article described it couldn't be more fitting. So, but it's weird because I feel so bad for everybody else that still has to go through trying to get justice the legal way, and I don't have to do that. I would say to the kids that think they're grown, please just stay home. I don't care how much of a jerk you guys are to each other, parents and kids. Like, family is everything. I don't care if you hate each other. Damn it, don't run away. That's for damn sure, because it's not like you're just going to get sent back to your parents, or you're going to go where you're going to think you're going to want to be. to the parents, raise hell. They try to keep those kids from you, raise hell. You have to go through the hoops. Looking back on things, I would have been involved, but I don't think I would have done what they wanted me to. I would have taken her and ran myself instead of doing everything that I was supposed to do in court's orders. And hell, I even bought a house. Come to find out, that little turd was right around the corner the whole time. Literally like 5 blocks away. With my daughter doing drugs because they dropped her off. All the while I still had parental custody and I still had medical, or not custody, but rights, but medical rights, and I had school rights. That's why I could go to, meetings that we needed to have, stuff like that. And I got to have her on the weekends when it was, she was doing good. So it was very, very difficult. Do not get lost in the system. And that was one thing that I preached to her over and over again throughout her life. I was like, you do not want to get lost in the system. So she doesn't get the comeback that she deserved. She doesn't get to be like, I was in there for 2 years, but now I'm doing amazing with my mom. And nobody else gets that for her. Nobody. She's got a lot of people that love her. She's got a lot of family. She just didn't see it. And I wish I could make up for that. This is not a game. This is life and death. And for people that don't understand the side of having family members or themselves succumb to some sort of addiction or haven't been afflicted by fentanyl, you're not aware of how deadly this is. And that needs to be taken way more serious when it comes to, the mental health side or trying to get people help. Like, this isn't they'll get the help when they want to get help. I say snatch their ass and put them in involuntary until you get them back. Because if I could have done that, I would have. This is not I'm just going to go to the bar and then, just have a couple, recreational whatevers with my buddies afterwards and go home, maybe feel like crap in the morning. Nope. This isn't I'm just going to go smoke pot with my buddies. Nope. That's over with. It's over with. Those days are over with. Recreation, no, it's one try and then you die. Or you have the side of where they know how to do it to where they don't, but now they're extremely hooked on something that's worse than heroin or morphine, but can literally kill you, and it's the size of a pencil tip for the amount. It's not a game. It is life and death, and I think people need to realize that and take away from this whole fentanyl thing that these are not just addicts. For the most part, these are people who took a painkiller thinking it was a painkiller. They weren't looking to get that high or whatever, or they smoked pot and it was laced. even if they are addicts, these are our children, our family members. These are not bad people. They need help in that aspect. But when we say no to drugs these days, we mean it.